Hello, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I am going to share with you some information on a European trust that I am currently invested in, and it is the Montanaro European Smaller Companies Trust, or MTE. I feel most comfortable talking about investments that I am currently holding, and I bought into this trust back on the 30th of April. So I've had it for a few months now. It's performed really well so far. So it's up 15.18% since I bought it, so around about 4.5 months, and it has historically managed to beat the market. So that is why I wanted to share a bit of information about it today. Obviously, past performance is not always indicative of future performance, but it holds some really good holdings that I'm also going to share with you that I think have a lot of potential going into the future. So yeah, I will share all of the information that you might need if you are looking to invest in a European trust or European fund. So I personally invested in this investment trust in an ISA, so it's invested in a Fidelity ISA, so I will pop the performance up on the screen now for you just so you've got that information. As I said, I've held it for 4.5 months, but it is widely available and you can buy it on lots of different platforms here in the UK. In terms of annualized returns for this fund, it has achieved a 30.98% annualized return, and that is 3 years of annualized returns. So on average, it has achieved 30.98% per year for the last 3 years. And to compare that to the peer group index, that has achieved a 19.55% 3-year annualized return. So 19.55% a year versus 30.98% for the Montanaro European Smaller Companies Trust, or MTE as I'll probably call it for the rest of this video, because Montanaro European Smaller Companies Trust is quite a mouthful. So let's say you invested £1,000 into Montanaro 10 years ago, you would now be looking at a holding size of £6,838.67 versus the peer group index of £5,953.87. So nearly £1,000 more over 10 years than the peer group index, which is great. It has performed very well more recently in the last 3 to 5 years, and for me this is a trust that I'm looking to hold on to into the future and plan to hold for the next 5 to 10 years. So it's really important for me to look at these numbers and see how it's done historically and see how it can potentially, not always, but potentially do in the future. So one of the reasons why I wanted to invest in this trust specifically was because it is covering Europe, and that was really important to me, because a lot of the investments that I have, even the global trusts, funds and ETFs that I'm invested in, tend to have a lot of their holdings in America, and I actually just wanted to get some exposure to Europe as well. And rather than that forming a small slice of the investments in some of the bigger funds that I'm invested in, I wanted to specifically target Europe at the moment and make sure that I was invested there. But the top 10 country allocations are Sweden, which is 30%, Germany 18%, Italy 11%, then France, Switzerland, Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, Spain, and then Belgium all the way down at 2% of its holdings. And then when I was looking at those holdings specifically and having a closer look at the top 10, it got me excited because a lot of them are in sectors that I'm personally interested in, so the tech and healthcare sector, and also a couple of them were companies that I actually use. And obviously I think it's very important to look at companies' finances and look at how you think they could perform into the future. But I also think it's really good to see companies that you actually personally use and have had a good experience with as well. So just running through the trust's top 10 holdings. The first one is NCAB Group, which produce printed circuit boards. The next one is Sartorius Stedim Biotech, which is a healthcare company which I actually hold individual shares of as well, separately outside of this account. Then next is Fort Knox, which is a tech company. Then Esker SA, which is a software tech company. Then MIPS AB, so this is one of the ones that I had personally heard of, and my husband actually has a cycle helmet that uses the MIPS technology or MIPS technology. I'm not sure which one is the right one to say it. They basically produce helmets for brain protection. So I had heard of this company because when my husband started getting into cycling and cycling to work, when he went to our local cycling shop, they recommended that he bought a helmet with MIPS protection or MIPS protection. So that is personally where I'd heard of it. And I think that obviously if you're going into a store and that is being advised to you, and also his friends also said similar things to him, I think that hopefully that company should have a bright future. The next company is Tool Group. So they produce outdoor active products, so things like bike rack holders and that kind of thing. So it was quite nice in here to see some companies that aren't just in the tech and healthcare sector, because a lot of the funds that I am invested in are very tech and healthcare heavy. Obviously there are tech and healthcare companies within the top 10 holdings, but it's nice to see a little bit more variety in these holdings as well. The next one is IMCD-NV, which is a chemicals and food ingredient company. And then the next one is Vitrolife AB, and they produce products to help with IVF and fertility, which I thought was very interesting. The next company is a software company. So again, moving back to tech, it is ATOSS Software, AG. Lots of different letters here. And then the final one is a biopharmaceuticals company, which is Tekken Group Limited. I think it's really good to have a look at top 10 holdings when you are looking at investing in a trust or a fund, because you want to have a look and see whether those are companies that you would have invested in individually if you were buying individual stocks and shares. And also I think it's really, really important to check that you're not buying trusts and funds with a lot of crossover. So if you're seeing the same companies coming up in the top 10, for example, Tesla is often in a lot of top 10s in funds at the moment, and then also Moderna, you might see Amazon a lot. And if you're buying a fund or a trust that has really similar top 10s, then maybe you should just stick with the fund or trust that you think will perform better or has lower fees, for example, rather than buying trusts and funds that are actually quite similar in their top 10 holdings. So I think it's really nice to check the top 10 holdings and make sure that they are a bit different to some of the investments that you're also holding at the moment. Obviously, these are all very different from a lot of the trusts and funds that I'm holding, because I'm specifically targeting Europe here, whereas, as I said, a lot of the top 10 holdings in the other trusts I'm invested in and the other funds that I'm invested in tend to be America dominant. So the final point that I have on this trust is around its risk level, and its risk level is set at 5. Risk levels run all the way from 1 all the way up to 7, 7 being the most risky and potentially the highest returns, and 1 being the least risky and potentially lower returns. So 5 for me is quite a nice risk level that I'm comfortable with. It's on that higher end, but I do actually hold some funds and trusts that have risk levels all the way up at 6 and 7, so it's quite nice to see a trust that has a risk level of 5 for me. So if you're interested in risk level and a trust that is not super high risky, then this could be worth you looking into as well. Overall, I'm really, really pleased with the returns that I've seen from this investment. So in 4.5 months, as I said, I've seen a 15.18% return, which I am really, really pleased with, especially because this trust is giving me exposure to Europe, which was really, really important for me. I hope you found this video interesting. Any questions, please do pop them in the comments down below and I will get back to you on them. I am not an expert, I'm not a pro, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just a DIY investor doing my own research, making decisions that feel right for me. So if anything I say isn't right for you and you think absolutely not, that's not an investment I want to make, then definitely don't do it. Definitely don't listen to what I'm saying if it doesn't sound like something that you're interested in, and always go away and do your own research first and check that it's something that you're really, really comfortable with. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye bye.